Okay, and welcome to another edition of International Soccer Break. This is the American edition. So, my name is Sahil. I'm your host. And of course, I have Rahi and Roy. And today, I didn't even bother to wear my US shirt. And as you can tell, none of the other contingent here has worn it. I will preface one thing before we start. If you have come, viewers out there, if you've come to this program to listen to some of the same things that are out there in the media, which is US found a way, US, won it through some great substitutions and resilience and some great performances, you have come to the wrong program. So you can go ahead and turn off the video now because we saw it very differently.
Don't believe the lies. They're spreading lies. Lies spread to you by the U.S. Soccer Federation. Guys, I went into this game thinking this was the moment I could exercise the demons of Kua, right? We spoke last time about how traumatic that was, and I thought this would be the chance to exhale and breathe it all out. It was Kua revisited. It was exactly the same experience. Luckily, you were not with me in the room, but I was literally as nervous and as angry, tearing my hair out as I've ever been about this team, more than the Iran game in the World Cup, more than any moment since Kua. I was angry. I was depressed. I was upset. I was nervous. I was scared. I was living a nightmare watching this game. And frankly, it's entirely unacceptable. And we'll get into that. But I think I'm done with this manager unless things drastically change, Roy.
Yep. And I see you were tearing your hair out. I see a little bald spot right here. A little bald spot back there.
Look at how many more gray hairs I have now.
Yeah, you have a lot, man. Jeez Louise. This game was, oh God. Oh, I don't even like talking about it. It makes me feel sick. I felt sick watching the game yesterday. I felt absolutely ill to my stomach watching the U.S. struggle against a 10-man Trinidad and Tobago. 10 players for 70 minutes. And we had how many shots on goal in the first half against a 10-man Trinidad and Tobago?
Is that true? 0?
We didn't have a shot on goal. Our first shot on goal, if I'm not mistaken, was Malik Tillman's super weak header. That was the first shot registered on goal against a 10-man Trinidad and Tobago at home. At home. The only reason we won this game is because they were freaking exhausted.
Yeah.
After 85 minutes. They could not move anymore. They were cramping. They were dying. They couldn't do it. They couldn't hold the fort anymore. And they fell apart. And that's what opened the door for us to score. Had they had a little bit more energy, we would have tied that game at home against the 10-men Trinidad and Tobago. Everyone was atrocious. Yeah. Atrocious. It was miserable.
I do want to give credit.
Not reflect the game.
I do want to give credit to one team on the field yesterday, and that was Trinidad and Tobago, because they played. I mean, dude, hats off to you guys, man. Literally, like, goalie played a fantastic game, fantastic performance by them. Okay. I want to now say my piece because I am going to go right after the U.S. soccer media, the American media in general. And this is part of the reason why I wanted us to get together and start, this podcast, because there is too much nonsense out there about the U.S. program and the way we look at stuff. We've talked about in England, where their media has a tendency to do the opposite of ours, which is really tear down these players. But our media does exactly the opposite. And when you have performances like this against a Trinidad and Tobago team down to 10 men, they spin it and say, oh, U.S. found a way. All that matters is we got the 3 points. Yes, it shows some of the weaknesses, but the structure was good. This does not get it done against Germany, against Netherlands, against the top European competition. And this is inherent in the system and the structure of U.S. soccer.
What did you expect they were going to do, Trinidad? They're going to park the bus, as you should, as an opponent that's 99th in the world, playing against the 11th ranked team in the world. We're supposed to be the 11th ranked team. What did you think they were going to do? They're going to park the bus and sit back. So if you decide to funnel everything centrally, what do you think that does? Congests all that space where as defenders, you don't have to do as much running. You can sit there and there's very little room to work. If we're going to push everything centrally and every time Gio Reyna gets the ball, he's going to take 10 seconds to diddle around a little bit and then pass it, this is what's going to happen. You play wingers who aren't wingers. Malik Tillman didn't provide any width. I'm not sure what you expected was going to happen and why you thought playing that way was going to solve the problems that Trinidad presented. It seems to me as if they're going onto the field without any answers about what they should do. And so then it's on the players to try and figure it out. Did they play badly? Yes. Did they miss chances? Yes. But there are no ideas. There are no ideas going into a game like this. And how many times have we seen a Greg Berhalter team struggle to break down a low block? It's okay if that low block is Canada, perhaps a little higher ranked team. But if it's Trinidad, now you're seeing it's a problem tactically. It doesn't matter the opponent. All you have to do, you could be any team, Roy. You could be your high school team. And you sit in a low block, the U.S. will struggle to score.
Yeah. And I want to revive an old newspaper headline of when Mr. Greg Berhalter was fired from Hammarby. It's Hammarby fire Greg Berhalter as manager, citing team's lack of offense, if you'd like to pronounce it that way. So
offensive performances, we might say.
It's an offensive, no lack of offense in that case, but offense was definitely lacking. He was fired from Hammarby for that reason. He struggled with the same thing for the Columbus Crew, and he's struggling with the U.S. in the same exact way. This is a coach with a pattern. This is a coach who has always struggled to get his teams to attack, especially against a low block, and he simply hasn't been able to figure it out. This lineup on paper looked wonderful. When they announced the roster sheet, the starting 11 without the positions, I'm like, he's going for the kill here. He's going for the 6-7-0. He's got all his attacking players. He's got Tillman. He's got Reyna. He's really going for this game. But it was a disaster. Tillman as a weird inward-facing.
All right, yeah. So Roy, let's
mess.
I know you love your graphics, so let's really quickly.
I do love my graphics, man.
Let's really quickly give it to out there about what you exactly, what are we looking at? What are we, I mean.
So it looks blank, which I assume is because everyone.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is. Okay.
Here are my player ratings, my friends. Turner, I'm not sure if he played. I didn't get to see him on the television. Did you guys see him? Was he in the game?
He was in the game. He was in the game.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he was so disappointed. I think he was so disappointed in his team, he just left, man. I think that's what happened. So.
I think he was on the bench. I couldn't figure out where he was.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start with Rocky's favorite player, the one he called the savior of the U.S. national team, the one he said he's going to be the best player, our best forward ever, Mr. Balogun. 0.1 out of 10. He was terrible, uninvolved, and we could blame Berhalter's system that it doesn't involve him in the right way, that it doesn't play to his strengths. He is not adjusting. He is not adjusting. He is not doing what he needs to do to fit into the system. He was, for me, probably the worst player on the field. Second worst for me was Mr. Tillman. My goodness, is this guy inconsistent or what? I saw him a couple weeks ago for PSV. He looked magical. He was amazing. He was creative. He was giving gorgeous passes. That goal he had with Pepe.
Yeah.
Oh, with Des, that's right.
Yeah.
What a beautiful goal. What a play for the U.S. Disaster. A joke. And we need to be holding these players accountable. As Mr. Alexi Lala said back in the day, these are a bunch of tattooed millionaires who aren't held responsible for their performances. They're representing our nation. I'm not in agreement that we have to be soft on them and light. Oh, no. They are representing our nation against a 10-man Trinidad. Anyways, Paredes, he's not ready. What a drop-off between him and Pulisic. It's incredible. Pulisic has no one pressing up against him, which is unfortunate. And the rest, you see the score. Defense, I mean, I gave them 5s and 6s because, I don't know, they didn't do terrible.
Yeah.
But what a mess, man. What a disappointing display, disgusting display from this team.
Yeah.
Being led by Balogun and Tillman and Paredes.
Before I change the graphic, Rahi, do you have anything to say about this?
Yeah, I think there's 2 players who get a 10. They're not on the field, but that would be Christian Pulisic and Timothy Weah. By not being on the field for this performance, they receive a 10 because they remind us without them, we are not nearly the same team. And the reason is they move with speed, they move with guile, they do things that are a little bit different. They can take their defenders on 1-on-1, and their movement off the ball is excellent, right? The problem is there's no 1-2s. There's nothing that's quick interchanging here. And a lot of that, honestly, is coaching, right? The amount of times we funnel in, and then there's a couple touches, and Dest has, the right wing open, then he cuts back inside, and then he passes it centrally. I'm not sure what we're trying to do, right? And at a certain point, we've passed it around 10 times in the central area, and then it goes wide, and there's a terrible cross that it gets put in. But that wide ball comes after you've played it around the center for way too long. If you're going to play wide, it's got to be early wide. Open up space, right? Which is what Timothy Weah does with those runs, which Christian Pulisic does by taking the ball himself.
We'll come back to you and we'll talk more. I'm going to say this right now, and I want to end with this, is, guys, U.S. soccer, U.S. national team, this is not going to get it done. And it's going to get it done against Trinidad, and it's going to get it done against some other CONCACAF nations. And every once in a while, they'll go beat Mexico, and everyone will feel great about it. I know Panama just won 3-0. That's another issue with that. Guys, we are never, ever, 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 ever going to be competitive against European competition, against top competition, when you have performances like this. End of story. I'll let Rahi and Roy figure it out, but that's my piece. So
it's not only that, we're not going to be dominant against regional opponents. If that was against Panama, we lose that game yesterday.
Yeah.
We lose that game yesterday with that performance against Panama, against Honduras, against Costa Rica, against Canada, against Mexico, against El Salvador. Any of those teams would have beat us yesterday.
Who cares about that? We're talking about competing on the world stage. That's not going to get it done.
And one step at a time, my friend. We can't even compete regionally. We can't even dominate regionally. Let's have that conversation first. Let's freaking dominate this region, which is one of the weakest regions in the world, before we could talk about competing against Germany.
Honestly, I'm not sure if Greg wants to be there right now. Have you seen his body language? It's just weird. I do feel bad for him a little bit, Greg Berhalter, because it seems like he doesn't have the confidence that he had before. And that's obvious based on what's happened. But I'm not sure that the energy and just reading into the way he looks on the sideline, it doesn't look great, Roy. It doesn't look great.
I don't know. He wouldn't have taken the job if he didn't want it. He wants to be there. I don't know if he realizes he's the wrong guy for the job. Hard to say. He doesn't strike me as egotistical. That's for sure.
I mean, he's got to have an amazing Copa America. Otherwise, I'm not sure.
I mean, guys, we need to just stop giving this team excuses. Honestly, I'm I know I'm supposed to be the voice of reason on this, but after that, I don't know, man. I don't know. Anyway, so
disaster, my friends, disaster.
It's a complete disaster. I know it says 3-0, but don't read into that at all. So anyway, I'm not even gonna say it. I'm gonna let Roy, you can end the show however you want to, and I'm just gonna sit here. So that's all I gotta say.
USA, step it the hell up, my friends. Have some pride in your country. Have some pride wearing that jersey. That was embarrassing. Don't do that crap again, because that was sad and that was difficult for me to watch. And Rocky's gonna give up on you again, like he did after Cuba. He's gonna stop watching for 2.5 years. That was unacceptable. Come on, USA, step it up. That's it.